Welcome back, crew, to Seek the Edge podcast with me, Kelsey Lensman, where my goal here is to challenge you as much as myself outside of our comfort zones to pursue the potential that God placed inside of us and to pursue the potential that every one of us have. We just don't realize what's actually within us. And this could be fitness, this could be business, careers, relationships. It's all about pursuing whatever area of growth that is going to make you a better person on the other side. And we do this a lot. Our Expand Your Limits, my company, does this a lot from the fitness aspect, because I truly do believe, and I'll share with you on this podcast, that when you set a crazy, how can I achieve this? I'm so afraid to actually do this goal, and you pursue that goal, and it's a physical goal that you did not think that you can do, you break a belief of what you're capable of. And when you break a physical belief of what you're capable of, you unlock something that's inside of you that you didn't even know exist. And I see this so often with our women in our lifting meets, or for me, my crazy endurance run, my ultra that I'm pursuing, is when they step on that platform and they have 300 pounds on the bar, 150 pounds on the bar, 200 pounds on the bar, and they are nervous and they are scared and they see everybody out in the audience staring at them, and they get up on that platform and they do it anyway. I had one girl, literally, I'm going to post the picture of this. She pulled up her deadlift and her mouth just dropped, and she literally said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that." And in that moment, that's what our events are about. That is what this entire podcast is about, which brings me to wanting to update you all about my crazy 100-mile race coming up. And on December 29th, 2024, so for now it's about, I'm recording this end of November, it's about 5 weeks away, I am going to be running 100 miles in Phoenix, Arizona in the Across the Years event. And many of you have asked, okay, Kelsey, I know you're posting this on social media, but like, what are you actually doing? And it is exactly what it sounds like. I am running 100 miles, start to finish, as fast, as efficient that I can do to get done as fast as I can get it done. And the whole time cap is 72 hours. So you have to at least complete it in 72 hours. However, my goal, which is a stretch goal for me, and I'll share why, but my goal is to run it under 30 hours. And this means minimal sleep. This means very minimal breaks. And this means persisting through a whole lot of discomfort. And here's the catch though, is yes, it's 100. And many ultras, if you've heard of that term before, ultra running or ultra races, they're in beautiful mountains and scenery. And yes, that poses a lot of more climbing and hiking. And, you get to see the wild, wild west sometimes if you go out west with it. And the catch for this race though, is it is a 1.5 mile loop, a 1.5 mile loop on gravel, just a gravel trail that you run over and over and over again for 100 miles. And so if you do that math, which I just did that math, I am running that 1.5 mile loop 66.666 times to get to the goal achieved of 100 miles. And what's interesting is as I'm going that 1.5 mile loop, I am going to be met with some challenges in my brain. I'm going to be met with wanting to give up. And I'm going to have to persist through a whole lot of monotony. And I would be lying to you right now, sitting 5 weeks out, which is crazy to me. I'd be lying to you right now, sitting 5 weeks out, if I told you that I felt 100% ready. I don't. I don't even feel close to 100% ready. To give context, I ran 20 miles back to back about a week and a half ago, which is the longest I've ever ran. And I'll share my journey with running with you in this podcast. But after that second 20, I was hurting. I made a YouTube video about this. I was literally, for those that have played sports growing up, and if I played basketball, for example, and whenever we were trying to go from point A to point B, we couldn't walk. right? But we did this like slow man's like little hobble. So it looked like we're running, but we're not actually running. And for those that have played sports, like you understand what I'm talking about. That is how I was running at the end of the second 20 miler on that second day. And I was hurting. My feet hurt, my body hurt, my brain wanted to give up and wanted to quit. However, that's what I'm also most excited about, is meeting where my brain grows during this entire race. Coming up against those limiting beliefs, coming up against those thoughts of wanting to give up, coming up against that little voice in my brain that tries to like pull me back. Some people call it like the governor of our brain. Like you actually can go so much more and your body can persist through so much, but it's that little safety part of our brain, which is good. We need it, right? But it'll try to keep us like with 50% more in the tank. It'll tell us that we're at our wit's end. And so I'm so interested and excited to meet myself where my brain grows, or where my brain goes in this race, and pushing the mental as much as I do the physical. And this 100-mile race was not just something random that I put on my calendar. It wasn't just like, oh, like let's just go run 100 miles, right? For those that know me, know I very strongly, when I say very strongly, I just don't use the hate word. But if I would use it, it would be in this scenario. I very strongly disliked running. Completely disliked running. Like I said, I used to play basketball, and we used running for punishment. Like literally punishment. And I would hear get on the line, or even for volleyball when we would do 100-mile like test, or 100-mile, geez, Kels, a mile test to see how fast you can do a mile time trial. And when I would either hear on the line, or I knew the week that was coming up for our 1-mile test, like a little part of me died inside. I was like, no, anything besides running. And so as I would hear that, I would constantly just associate a negative connotation with running. And fast forward in college, when I was done with sports, I remember I was longing for a goal. I just wanted to set a goal. I didn't know what that was, but I missed working towards a goal. So I remember saying like, oh, like I should just set a goal of a half marathon. To give you context, as I set the goal for a half marathon, I got 2 weeks into training. I absolutely hated it, hated every moment of it, and decided that goal was not for me. So I forewent the half marathon. And so the next question that many people get, and it was funny, I was just talking with one of my friend's parents about this, and they're like, Coast, why are you running this if you hate running? Like why in the heck are you running 100 miles? And I often laugh because they're not wrong. Like it contradicts everything of, wait, you don't like running, yet you're running 100 miles. Like it just does not compute or make sense. But it's not about the running for me. It was about me deciding to do something that was just so inconceivable to me. And for me deciding to pursue something and pursue that entire journey of learning what it takes to become the person that can run 100 miles. That's what interests me. It's not me enjoying running now. People even ask me now after, weeks and months of training, like, oh, do you enjoy running? I'm like, no, I still do not necessarily enjoy it. I respect it. I respect running. I respect the discipline of it. But I don't just say, oh, I'm so excited to go run 22 miles tomorrow. Like that's still not a thing. However, I was so interested and excited to pursue the process of this 100-mile. For me, and things that I've done before, bodybuilding, Mission 48, like all those different things, it's never about the race day. It's never about the bodybuilding competition day. It's never about the day that you peak for. For me on this race, it's about the entire 6+ month journey, which is actually very short in the grand scheme of things. 6+ month journey that I'm going to go on and have been on to run 100 miles. I know I'm going to be challenged mentally. I know I'm going to be challenged physically, but it's about who I become in the process to be able to become that person to run 100 miles. And that's what interests me, and that's what excites me. And I know that I'm going to be a whole different Kelsey, still the same me to my soul, right? But I'm going to be a more equipped Kelsey on the other side of this massive pursuit. And it's because of that crazy goal, it's because of that crazy thing that I cannot stay the same and achieve that goal. There's a book, I'm going to deviate real quick, but there's a book that one of my mentors sent me, and I can't remember it. I'll put this in the show notes, but it basically talks, it's 10x is easier than 2x is the book. And what this book talks a lot about is whenever you 10x a goal, like for me, I did not run before this. Like 6 months ago, running a mile seemed absolutely terrible to me. So I basically 100x my goal. Like that was 100x. And he talks a lot about how when you set such an inconceivable, crazy goal, not that it's easy, because it's not that my running journey has been easy. It's been hard. My body's been like, okay, Kels, what are you doing? But it's that you cannot stay the same person. I cannot have the same schedule. I cannot have the same mentality. I cannot have the same, all the same qualities of me and still achieve that goal. My entire life, I kind of had to really 180. I had to get really clear about business. What are the most important things? I had to get really clear about my mental game. Like, all right, Kelsey, you can't stay where you were at mentally and achieve this goal. And so because you have to have such a big identity shift and such a big shift in your life, it actually is easier than a 2x goal. And that sounds crazy, guys. I understand this, but it is so true. And I've seen this in myself. And I see this in so many of our women that join our program. And I'll preface, when women join our coaching program, I do not make them run 100 miles. I do not make them step on a bodybuilding stage. Like many women come in just wanting to change their body comp or get more fit. And that's amazing. However, I see when women come in and they have a tiny goal of like, I just kind of want to get more fit. It actually is so much harder for them than this crazy kind of 180 goal or date, because they keep 1 foot in how they've operated and 1 foot out towards the goal that they have. And so what happens is they play this tug of war. Like, I kind of want this goal, but then I kind of want where I've been at. I kind of want to get to the place that I want to get to, but then my old patterns are holding me back. Versus when somebody, and this was me and my journey, when I set a goal of getting on a bodybuilding stage, that was such a crazy, inconceivable goal for me in that time that I literally had to 180 everything that I was doing. And because of that, that made me fully commit to the process. And I knew that I could not be 1 foot out, 1 foot in. And so because of that, because I was fully committed, which we'll foreshadow at the end of this podcast, it was easier for me in the long run than a small 2x goal with me still keeping 1 foot in the shallow end. And she sent me that book and she's like, Kels, you're one of the only people that I know operates this way. And I'm like, man, like that's actually so true. Mission 48, this 100 miler. It's like, I know that I cannot stay the same person and achieve those goals, which makes me evaluate almost every area of my life and get better. So for me, I'm going to bring us back, is for me, lifting didn't do that anymore for me, meaning elicit that same kind of excitement and nervous. And I'm not saying that I'm an amazing lifter and that I take the cake in all of it, because I do not. There's so many people that are better for me. But if I put another lifting date on my calendar, that did not push me to the edge. It didn't make me nervous. It didn't make me like, ooh, I got to really level up here. It was just something that I knew that I could do. And when a friend brought to me about running the 100 mile and that she was doing it, and I was like, oh, like that elicited something in me that I was like, oh shoot, like, can I really do this? And usually when I have that feeling of, oh shoot, can I really do this? And that pops in, I so badly want to ignore it. I will tell you this, I so badly want to say like, oh, like, let's just ignore that right there. But I know it is exactly what my North Star is and that I need to pursue it. So whenever I get that nervous, oh shoot, like excitement nerves of, man, can I really do that? I know that that is my North Star and that is what I actually need to pursue. And this does not mean be dumb. Okay, do not take me out of context. Obviously, not everything scary is worth pursuing. But when you know deep inside your heart that you're just avoiding something because it's incredibly uncomfortable, but it's actually so growth inducing, that's when you need to lean in versus lean away. And yes, take this in fitness, but you can also take this in relationship. You can also take this in your career. When you know that conversation that you're avoiding, or that project that you're avoiding in your business, when you know that that's actually what you need to pursue, but you're just afraid that you don't know if you can actually do it, that's where you need to lean into it versus lean away. Which is where the entire ethos of misogi comes in. And I first heard the term misogi years back. This would have been 5+ years ago. And I'm pretty sure Jesse Itzler was the first one that I was listening to a video of. And he talked a lot about setting a misogi, about being a year-defining goal that seems so crazy and absurd, but you attempt it. And it's something that challenges you mentally. It's something that challenges you physically, that unlocks another level of you. And then a few months back, I was reading a book recommendation, and the book was Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. And as I started reading this book, it gave words to everything that was going on in my brain that I didn't understand the way that I operated. And it was funny because I flipped the first page open and I read, I quote, Part 1. Rule number 1, make it really hard. Rule number 2, don't die. And I laughed as I read that because I was like, that's so true. I laughed as I read that, but I got a few chapters in and it really discussed, there's so much about that book, but it discussed a lot about our comfort zone and that our comfort zone is actually killing us. It's killing our fulfillment. It's killing our mental health. And ultimately, it's killing our life at the end of the day. And it can seem so contradictory because our comfort zone seems exactly that. It's comfortable, right? It's safe. But the comfort zone is described as this too, is choose the hard things or the hard things will choose you. I either choose the hard things, I choose the discomfort, or the hard things will choose you. Meaning, we choose to work out and train now and go through physical discomfort now, or disease, illness, or injury will choose us later. God forbid, but can happen. Meaning, we choose to start that side gig now, or regret or lack of fulfillment will choose us later. Meaning we choose to ask that person out now. We shoot our shot. Or we choose the thought of what if later. And that our comfort zone is only comfortable until discomfort chooses us to have to get out of it. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to say that again. Our comfort zone, this is the ethos of XYL, ethos of expand your limits. Our comfort zone is only comfortable until our discomfort chooses us, forces us is a better word, to have us get out of that comfort zone. God forbid it's injury, illness, something bad happening. But it's only comfortable until it's not comfortable. Until the fear, the regret, the physical discomfort will be like, I need to make a change. And so as I'm reading this book, I come across the term misogi again, and it gives the entire backstory of misogi. From the Japanese tale that there's a long backstory, read the book if you want, but basically this guy dives in this body of water to purify himself, this freezing body of water, and he purifies himself. And that the experience after rocketed him into a state of sumikuri, I'm going to butcher that word, but it's basically a purification of the mind and body and a clarity of the mind and body, and removed all of his impurities and weaknesses and past limits. And ultimately, him pursuing to dive in that really cold water made him tougher in body, mind, and spirit. So the act of pursuing that discomfort, the act of doing something that is uncomfortable, safe, but is uncomfortable, has made him tougher and has made almost a purification or a clarity that otherwise he would not have. And so now the term misogi has been applied in many other forms of really epic challenges in order to offer a reboot to the brain and body and spirit. And so that term can be applied to many other different physical challenges or things that really give you that sense of kind of renewed sense of self, renewed sense of who you are. And there's a specific physician, his name's Dr. Marcus Elliott. He's a Harvard-trained physician that he owns a sport science facility, and he dives deep into misogi. The guy that was interviewing him for this book, Michael Easter, he thought that Dr. Elliott thought that he was just contacting him for some of the sports science stuff that he did. And he was like, yeah, I'm really just not interested in talking about that. But as soon as Michael Easter said misogi, like Dr. Marcus Elliott, he was in. Like, he's like, yes, let's dive all into that. And he said, and I quote, over our species' hundreds of thousands of years evolving, it was essential for our survival to do hard shit all the time, to be challenged and do this without safety nets. Each time we took one of these challenges, we'd learn about what our potential is. He said, in modern society, however, it's suddenly possible to survive without being challenged. You still have plenty of food, a comfortable home, a good job to show up to, and people that love you. And that seems like an okay life, right? But he says, let's say your potential is this big circle, and his arms come out. And then he pulled his hands tiny to his chest, and he said, most of us are living in this small space right here. We have no idea what exists on the edges of our potential. And by not having any idea what it's like on the outside of that edge, many really miss something vital. And he said, when you explore these edges is where he found a newer, better part of himself. And so this whole circle is your potential. Like hold your hands up, right? Give yourself a big kind of bear hug. But many of us live in this tiny little circle. And if you see me on YouTube, you see my hand here. This tiny little circle, and they think that that's all that's within them. They think that that's all that they're capable of. They think that that's all that God has placed in them to be able to do. But what they don't realize, which is why I want to elicit this so much in everybody, but women specifically, is as soon as you do something that pops that little circle and shows you the edges of what you're actually capable of, you understand there's such a bigger world out there for you. You understand God has placed so much more potential for you. That it's not just Susie and what she's gifts and what she's capable of doing, but you have these amazing gifts that God's given you to be able to do some epic things in life, whatever is in alignment with that. And he said that something deep inside of us gets triggered when we explore the edges of our comfort zone. And he says that misogi, that Dr. Marcus Elliott, misogi has basically two main conditions. Number one, it has to stretch the person's limits. It has to be such a unconceivable goal that you cannot stay the same person and achieve that goal. And number two, it has to be a very clear goal. It can't be this gray area of wanting to get more fit, right? Like what actually does that mean to somebody? It's got to stretch some person's limits, and it has to be very clear. And technically, which this 100-miler is this, you should have a 50% chance of success even if you do everything right. So many people that are afraid of failure, you only have a 50% chance of success even if the game plan goes as planned. And so the reason why I chose to do this 100-mile race is because it stretches my limits to no end. And it is a very defined, clear goal. And I can honestly say in this process, it has not been easy, nor it has been a small time commitment. The work that I'm doing in 2 days is 5 hours long, which is insane to me. However, I can say this deep within my soul with so much conviction that I feel more myself now than I have in years. I have this clarity in body, in my mind, in the momentum in my career, in the business, and this excitement to pursue like I never have before. And I only felt this feeling very similarly when I set that crazy goal initially bodybuilding wise, when I had no idea what I was doing. Like it's this crazy unconceivable goal that feels so in alignment there. And my goal with this 100 is to uncover another level of myself that I did not know existed. It is to uncover that next level Kelsey, that man, I didn't know she could actually do that. And it's crazy because 6 months ago, I hated running 1 mile. Like I couldn't even honestly finish a mile. I could do it, but it would be a struggle. Now this upcoming weekend, I run 22 miles tomorrow and then 24 miles back-to-back days. And it's the perspective of it changes. The perspective of all of it changed for me. What I first couldn't even conceive 6 months ago now is something that I do that's like a tenth of what I do. Now it's not necessarily easy, but it's my normal. And those perspective shifts, when you pursue an outlandish goal like that, those perspective shifts will bleed into your business. They will bleed into your relationships. I'm able to pour so much more into the people in my life right now than I ever have, because I have clarity, I have alignment, and I have pursuit. And in that of itself, that creates so much more giving energy that I can give to others. And so this ties into the lesson that I really want to hit home today in this podcast. And it's about the decision. A few podcasts back, I talked about the nudge. The very first podcast, I talked about the nudge. It's that the biggest dreams start as the quietest whispers. That small little whisper in your heart of what if you did this? What if you could do this? The biggest dreams start as the smallest whispers. Then I talked about the fear zone. You have a dream, you have an idea, then all of a sudden, all the reasons why you can't, shouldn't, are not able to pop in. This is the zone that holds so many people back from ever pursuing. Phase 1, the nudge. Phase 2, the fear zone. Phase 3 is what I call the decision. This is the one aspect of pursuing a goal or achieving it that many people overlook. Is they think one day or maybe later I'll get to it. They never actually truly decide to fully commit to do the thing. One day I'm going to make this change to my house. One day I'm going to get fit. One day I'm going to run a half marathon. One day I'm going to insert whatever that dream, idea, goal is. One day I'm going to get there, or maybe later, right? They're not necessarily deciding to not do it, but they're also not committing to do it. And so this is what I call, they play the one day land, the one day fairyland. And this is the land that all the hopes and dreams of people, that they never say that I'm not pursuing it, but they get stuck there because people never actually take the courage to either shut the door and say, I'm not doing it, or open it and walk through that door and say, hey, I'm fully committing to this. Is what many people don't realize in this one day land is when they're not making a decision, they're actually making a decision. So it's the one day I'm going to get there. And I'm not saying everything needs to be this crazy sense of urgency yesterday, right? However, a lot of people live life like they're going to live for the next 100 plus years without even realizing it. And then they get to, 20, 30, 40 years from now, and they're like, man, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z thing. And so they live in this one day land. They're really not deciding, but they're also not deciding. And so it's like they have all these kind of goals and vague dreams and vague aspirations, but it's one day I'll get there. It's kind of like their cop-out, right? Or they also play this game, the I kind of decide game, or the I'm interested but not committed game. And this is they really want to do the thing or go after the goal. So they kind of decide to do it and they dip their toes in, but they never put a timeline, a deadline, or fully commit to it. Or they think they're fully committed, but they're not willing to do what it takes to be fully committed to it. And the problem is they never reach their goal because they just kind of decided. They didn't make a decision. And those are two totally different things. To kind of decide and be like, I'm kind of doing this, and to make a definite decision of I am doing this, I kinda, and I am, those will have two completely different outcomes, and those will also have two completely different actions. Kinda is 1 foot out, 1 foot in. Kinda is I'll do it when it's easy, I'm not gonna do it when it's hard. Kinda is, well, I'll dip my toe in it, but if it's a little bit too uncomfortable, I'm gonna retreat back. The I am is I'm going to do it when it's easy and when it's hard. The I am is I'm going to put the time and the energy to it. The I am is I am going to get to this outcome and this goal, and I'm not allowing myself to dip a toe in and waste all this time and effort and energy and not actually reap the rewards from it. And the problem here is they never reach their goal, like I said, because they just kind of decide, they don't make a decision. And I see this all the time in fitness, with some women that come in, is people kind of decide they're interested in getting fit. They're interested in having these either body composition goals or these strength goals, but then their old patterns or habits or environment keeps them 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They want the goal, but they don't actually decide to go after the goal. And so what happens here is they stay stuck, and then what happens is they think it's not possible for them. And it breaks my heart every time because I want to just shake them and be like, if you just fully committed to this and did what it takes to get there, you would be amazed about the progress that you can have. But not everybody is ready at the time that they want to pursue it. And so it's not that they can't make progress. It's not that they can't achieve the goal. They just didn't make a decision to fully commit to it. And I want you to hear this loud and clear. Fully commit does not mean all consumed. Nick Bear actually did a podcast with this with his running coach, and I absolutely love this, is we need to be fully committed, but that does not need to mean it needs to be all consuming in all areas of your life, okay? I am fully committed to running 100 miles. Is it taking more time away from other things right now? Yeah, it is. However, I still have dinners with friends. I still read my Bible. Like I still am a human outside of running this 100-mile. And so I'm fully committed to pursuing the plan. And does that mean I need to make some sacrifices? Yes. However, it does not mean every single moment and waking hour do I need to be all consumed or stressed out or worried about this goal. Okay? I can still have other areas of my life thriving alongside of this goal. And also what a lot of people don't realize is when you're really going after that specific goal, the momentum that you carry in other areas of your life, like it is palpable, like it can be felt. And it actually makes a lot of the other areas so much better. I'm more keyed into work. I'm more keyed into the relationships I'm pouring in. I'm more keyed into taking Captain on walks and just being the best dog mom that I can be for him. It raises your tides. And so between the one day land and between the I'm interested, but I'm not fully committed land, this is where the decision is critical. The decision is the single-handed, and you understanding that you're making a decision, is the single-handed most important aspect of the journey. Because decision creates clarity, and clarity creates what you're going to do next. Clarity allows you to understand what action to take. Clarity allows you to understand what people to contact or to put in your environment. Clarity creates the commitment level you'll need to bring. And this is exactly where I was with for my 100, is when I decided to do it. I was interested for a little bit. I was like, oh, I'm kind of like racking this idea around in my brain. Did I actually go run? No. Did I actually follow a running program? No. But I was like kind of racking this idea in my brain. And I had somebody send me their running program. I did it some days. I didn't do it other days. I wasn't deciding. I was kind of deciding. I was like interested in this goal, right? But when I finally had a come to Jesus moment with myself, I was like, okay, Kels, you're either going to do this or you're not. Like, quit playing this. I'm kind of going to do it and I'll tell a few people, but I'm not actually doing what I need to do for it. And so when I actually decided to do it, I contacted a coach. When I actually decided to do it, I purchased my ticket for this event. Not closer to race day, I purchased it that day. When I decided to do it, I fully dove in. I was committed to it. I just didn't kind of want to do it. And then all this time passed, and I'm going to get to December and be like, well, I just can't do it. I decided, I took action, and I executed. And I've not been perfect. Not perfectly, but persistently. I hit running sessions I didn't want to hit. And that's because I wasn't just interested in completing this 100. I was committed to do it. I made the decision. I said, Kels, you're either doing this or you're not. Quit playing around. I made the decision. So then I'm going to follow the actions to pursue that goal. Okay. And for many people, myself included, many of our issues are not the tasks at hand or not knowing what to do. It's about not making a definitive decision. It's about it not being black and white. And I want to challenge you, if you are in your fitness journey right now, like I said, this does not mean all consuming, and this does not mean neglect your family, and this does not mean neglect your faith and your relationships and other areas of your life, right? But you need to get incredibly honest with yourself of, am I just interested in the idea of becoming more fit or the idea of adopting a more healthy lifestyle? Or am I fully committed that I'm willing to take the actions that it's going to take to lead me to the outcome that I want? Okay. You do have it in you. You can do it, but it also takes another level of commitment that not many people are willing to give or understand that it takes. Okay. And this is where the black and white comes in. And this is going to sound very harsh, and I love you as I say this, but this is the harsh reality that a lot of people are not willing to hear or be honest with themselves. Is you're either getting fit or you're not. You're either starting a business or you're not. You're either pursuing a relationship or you're not. You're either growing yourself as a person or you're not. You need to get out of the gray area and make the decision. Get out of the gray area of someday. Get out of the gray area of, well, I might be able to, or I kind of want to. Okay? You need to have a very honest conversation. And I say this with so much love, guys, because literally a year ago to almost the day is I had to have 2 really hard conversations with myself with really big aspects of my life. One in the relationship side and then also one in the business side to say, okay, Kels, you've been in this gray area kind of like not knowing what to do for too long. You need to make a decision. And what held me back for such a long time, and this might hit with some of you, is I was so afraid about making the wrong decision. I didn't make a decision because I was so afraid of what if I made the wrong one? What if this isn't the right direction? What if I can't do this? But it came to a point in my journey that I was so dissatisfied and so not necessarily unfulfilled, but so frustrated internally that I could not help not making a decision anymore. Like it just, I could not feel good and still be in this gray area, right? So I share this to say there is no right decision, okay? Yes, there's some ethical, moral, better decisions, but what released me of so much pressure, and I hope that I'm saying this because one of you are listening that's going to release you a lot of pressure, is there's no one set path for you in this life. The best way that I can describe this is I heard a podcast, and this thing on a podcast, and it just made so much sense to me. Is it was talking about God, and it was talking about the direction of life, right? And there's moral and ethical decisions, okay? But you also have free will. You also have free will to make decisions. That's why a lot of times I wish there was just like what do they call that? A snow globe where you can kind of like shake it and see your direction, or what do they call that? Like a magic. I'm blanking out on the word for this. Almost like a magic ball. That's what I'm saying. A magic ball to say, Kels, take a left. Kels, take a right. Make this decision. I really do wish God could just like come down and be like, shake the magic ball and be like, oh, okay, this is the decision I need to make, right? But they shared this part and they said that especially when it comes to your decisions and free will, that there's no one set path. You don't need to be worried about the right and the wrong decision. They said it's kind of like a GPS. Like if you use Waze or I use Apple Maps, it's kind of like a GPS, right? When I set my destination I live in Columbus, Ohio. So let's say I want to go to Ann Arbor, Michigan, baby. Ann Arbor, our rivals. Let's say I want to go to Ann Arbor, Michigan, okay? The GPS will calculate the most efficient route to get me to Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's going to take a left, take a right, go on the highway. It'll calculate the most efficient route. However, if I miss a turn, which if you know me driving, I have missed many turns before or outsmarting the GPS. If I miss a turn, it will redirect me on the next best path to get to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Okay. And he said, and I love this, and this released me of so much stress attached to making a decision. He said that, well, when you think about it in your free will, right, many people are just afraid about making the wrong left or wrong right. But just like your GPS, God, He's just going to redirect you. It doesn't mean that you screwed anything up. It doesn't mean that you have made the wrong decision. It's just like a GPS. It's going to redirect you back on path to where you want to go. It might take you a little bit longer. It might not be the most efficient path, but it's going to redirect you to be exactly where you need to be for the person that you're meant to become. And when I started really diving into that and understanding that on a visceral soul level, it released this pressure from me that I put on myself and that I felt that I was making the wrong decision or if I'm going to regret this in the future. Okay, and not everything can we take back, and not everything obviously can we mend if we make a different decision. However, I hope that releases some of you, and I hope that gives you the inspiration and grounded feeling that you just gotta decide. You just have to decide. Instead of adding so much more to your life in 2025 or whenever you're listening to this, if you can solely just make a decision, a definitive decision, a black and white decision on one area of your life or a big gray area that you're currently living in, that in of itself is going to give you so much freedom. That in of itself is going to create clarity for you about the action steps to take. Don't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and play that way your whole entire life. You are not meant to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out and feel this wrestling your whole entire life. You need to be fully committed towards whatever you're pursuing, whether that's in your faith, whether that's in your fitness, whether that's in your finance, whether that's in your family, whatever F that is for you, right? In your fun, be fully committed in alignment with who you are and allow yourself to and give yourself permission to pursue that thing. Give yourself permission to pursue that thing. And so remember, I leave this with you here. Remember, even when you are not making a decision, you're making a decision. So my challenge for you is choose wisely. Love y'all. Have an amazing week. We are going to rip 100 miles in about 5 weeks. Let's go.